Ma'am, this passport looks suspicious. Are you sure this is really yours? The words sliced through Gate 47's morning bustle like a blade. Brenda Collins, a 40-something American Airlines gate agent with tired eyes and pursed lips, held the burgundy passport up to the fluorescent light. She squinted dramatically, as if examining a counterfeit bill. Zara Washington stood motionless at the counter, her professional blazer crisp despite the early hour. At 32, she carried herself with quiet dignity, but Collins seemed determined to strip that away piece by piece. "The lamination feels off," Collins announced loudly, her voice carrying to nearby passengers. Without warning, she bent the passport's corner, then tore a small piece from the back page. "Quality check." The ripping sound made several travelers turn and stare. Collins slid the damaged document across the counter using only her pen tip, as if touching it might contaminate her. "Security!" she called out. "We have a document issue here." Have you ever watched someone destroy your dignity in public, assuming you had no power to stop them? The security announcement echoed through Gate 47 like a dinner bell for vultures. Passengers craned their necks, phones already emerging from pockets. Collins straightened her shoulders, basking in the attention. "Ma'am, I need to verify you can actually afford this seat," Collins said, tapping Zara's first-class boarding pass with her pen. "This is a $2,400 ticket. Where exactly did you get the money for this?" Zara's expression remained neutral. "I purchased it through the airline's website." "With what job?" Collins's voice dripped with skepticism. She crossed her arms, speaking slowly as if Zara might struggle with English. "I mean, what do you do for work that pays for first-class travel?" A passenger 3 people back in line pulled out her phone. Keisha Martinez, a local teacher, had witnessed enough workplace discrimination to recognize it instantly. She opened Facebook Live. "Y'all need to see this," Keisha whispered into her camera. "Gate 47, American Airlines. This is absolutely disgusting." The live stream counter showed 12 viewers, then 27, then 43. Collins leaned forward, lowering her voice to what she probably thought was confidential but was easily heard by the growing crowd. "Honey, maybe Southwest would be more appropriate for your budget next time." Zara reached into her briefcase, a leather case that cost more than Collins made in a week. As she moved, a small metallic badge caught the light from within a side pocket. She pulled out an expensive watch, checking the time with deliberate calm. "Flight 447 to Atlanta," the overhead announcement crackled. "Now boarding in 47 minutes. "I'll be sure to include that suggestion in my report," Zara said quietly, photographing Collins's name tag with her phone. Collins laughed. "What report? Some customer complaint that'll get buried in corporate?" "Something like that." The live stream viewers had climbed to over 200. Comments flooded Keisha's screen. "This is racial profiling. Get her badge number. Call the news." Collins examined Zara's boarding pass again, holding it up like evidence in a trial. "Priority access, official business," she read aloud mockingly. "What kind of official business? Government cheese distribution?" A few passengers gasped at the brazen comment. Keisha adjusted her phone angle to capture both women clearly. Zara opened a small notebook, writing steadily. Her handwriting was precise, methodical. Every word Collins spoke, every gesture, every witness present, all documented with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. "Ma'am, are you seriously taking notes about me doing my job?" Collins's confidence wavered slightly. "I document everything," Zara replied without looking up. "Occupational habit." The phrase hung in the air like smoke. Collins didn't catch its significance, but something about Zara's composure was starting to unnerve her. This wasn't how these confrontations usually went. Most passengers either exploded in anger or withered under pressure. Zara did neither. "Look," Collins said, trying a different approach. "I'm just following security protocols. You understand, right? With everything going on in the world, we can't be too careful." "Absolutely," Zara agreed. Security protocols are extremely important. That's why federal agencies conduct regular compliance reviews. Collins blinked. Federal agencies? Oh yes. The DOT, FAA, TSA, they all have oversight responsibilities for airline operations, discrimination complaints, protocol violations, employee conduct standards. Zara's voice remained conversational, almost friendly. Very thorough review processes. The live stream had reached 400 viewers. Airport Wi-Fi was slowing under the traffic spike as people shared the stream across social media platforms. A teenager in line started his own TikTok recording. An elderly businessman discreetly activated his phone's voice recorder. The modern digital coliseum was forming, and Collins was walking into the center ring without realizing it. 43 minutes until boarding, Zara noted, glancing at her watch again. The timepiece wasn't just expensive, it was precision Swiss engineering, the kind federal employees received for 25 years of service. Collins was beginning to sweat despite the air conditioning. Derek Harrison arrived like reinforcements answering a battle cry. The duty manager's polyester tie was already loosened despite the early hour, his receding hairline glistening under the gate's harsh lighting. He surveyed the scene with practiced authority, immediately gravitating toward Collins as if drawn by magnetic force. What seems to be this problem here? Harrison addressed Collins directly, treating Zara like furniture that happened to speak. Suspicious documentation, possible fraud, Collins replied, her confidence returning with a backup present. She gestured dramatically at the torn passport. And she's being difficult about standard security procedures. Harrison nodded with the weary understanding of a manager who'd handled these situations before. His eyes swept over Zara dismissively, cataloging details that fit his preconceptions. Ma'am, he finally acknowledged Zara's existence. I'm going to need you to step aside so we can process other passengers efficiently. The live stream viewer count hit 800. Keisha Martinez adjusted her phone angle to capture Harrison's arrival, providing running commentary to her growing digital audience. Now we got the manager involved, y'all. Same energy, different face. Watch how they close ranks. Airport security guard James Wright approached with measured steps, his radio crackling with routine chatter from other gates. His presence wasn't overtly threatening, but the implied authority was unmistakable. Passengers instinctively gave him space. 31 minutes until boarding, the automated gate announcement echoed through the terminal. Look, Harrison said, adopting what he probably considered a reasonable diplomatic tone. Maybe you'd be more comfortable on the next available flight. Less stressful for everyone involved. His suggestion carried the weight of bureaucratic inevitability. Most passengers would accept the path of least resistance, grateful to avoid further humiliation. Zara's pen paused over her notebook. Are you denying me boarding, Mr. Harrison? I'm offering alternatives that might better suit your situation. Based on what specific criteria? The question hung in the air like a legal trap. Harrison glanced at Collins, who was now fidgeting with unnecessary paperwork. The torn passport sat between them like radioactive evidence, impossible to ignore but too dangerous to acknowledge directly. Based on the disruption this situation is causing other passengers, Harrison said finally, gesturing to the growing crowd. The disrupted passengers had formed an impromptu amphitheater around Gate 47. Some pretended to read magazines while obviously eavesdropping. Others openly recorded, their phones creating a forest of digital witnesses. A woman in business attire 3 rows back was typing furiously on her laptop, live tweeting every development. Her followers were retweeting faster than she could type. Airline discrimination was beginning to trend locally, spreading beyond the airport's walls. Mr. Harrison, Zara said, her voice acquiring a new edge of bureaucratic precision, what's your employee identification number? Excuse me? Your ID number, for my documentation. Harrison's professional smile flickered. Ma'am, you're not entitled to that information during routine customer service interactions. Zara's responding smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Actually, Federal regulations require airline employees to provide identification when requested during official discrimination complaints. 14 CFR Part 382, subsection C, if you'd like to verify. The specific legal citation landed like a precision strike. Harrison stared at her, his mind racing to process the implications of someone who quoted federal aviation regulations from memory. Collins leaned over to whisper in Harrison's ear, but her attempt at discretion was theater quality obvious. Her stage whisper carried to half the gate area. Probably can't even read the boarding pass properly. You know how they are with official documents. The comment detonated across social media instantaneously. Keisha's live stream exploded with outraged responses. The teenager's TikTok captured it perfectly. Screenshots were already spreading across Twitter like wildfire. Security guard Wright shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware that his routine call was becoming something much larger. He'd been trained to handle unruly passengers and minor disturbances, not viral discrimination incidents with federal implications. "Ma'am," Wright interjected carefully, "I'm going to need to see some identification, just for standard verification purposes." The request was reasonable, professional, completely routine under normal circumstances. These weren't normal circumstances. Zara looked at the three men now surrounding her in a loose semicircle. Collins hovering behind Harrison like a coward seeking protection. The digital audience watches through multiple camera angles, the physical crowd pretending to mind their own business while hanging on every word. She opened her laptop with deliberate slowness, the screen revealing professional software interfaces that most passengers would never recognize. Government portals, federal databases, official reporting systems with restricted access. "Verification," she repeated thoughtfully, her fingers moving across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. Yes, verification is extremely important in federal investigations. Each keystroke was methodical. Screenshots, documentation, timestamps, digital evidence being compiled in real time. "Mr. Harrison, how long have you worked for American Airlines?" "That's not relevant to this customer service issue." 12 years, according to your LinkedIn profile, Zara continued without pause, her research displayed on screen. "Ms. Collins, your tenure is 8 years, correct? Started in Houston, transferred here in 2018. Collins's face was drained of color. "How do you know?" "Public information, social media profiles, employment verification systems." Zara's voice remained conversational, but steel was emerging underneath. "Very accessible data when you understand which databases to query." The live stream had reached 1,500 viewers. Comments flooded faster than Keisha could read them. Someone had identified the specific gate and was posting American Airlines customer service number along with corporate executive contact information. Harrison was sweating, despite the air conditioning, small beads forming along his receding hairline. He'd handled hundreds of difficult passengers during his tenure, but something about this woman's methodical competence was profoundly unsettling. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to insist that you step aside and allow us to process other passengers," he repeated, but his voice lacked the authority it had carried minutes earlier. Zara looked up from her laptop screen, her dark eyes meeting his with unwavering directness. "Actually, Mr. Harrison, I think I'll remain exactly where I am." She closed the laptop with a soft but definitive click. "Because this situation is about to become very interesting for all of us." The words settled over Gate 47 like an incoming storm front. Harrison and Collins exchanged increasingly nervous glances. Wright's hand moved instinctively closer to his radio. The digital audience collectively held its breath. Zara reached for her briefcase with movements that were deliberate and unhurried. The expensive leather case sat before her like Pandora's box, and everyone watching, both physically and virtually, understood intuitively that whatever emerged next would fundamentally alter the trajectory of this confrontation. The airport's customer service supervisor had appeared at the edge of the growing crowd, drawn by reports of a situation at Gate 47. She surveyed the scene with growing concern, noting the phone recording, the tension radiating from her employees, the calm woman at the center of it all. 27 minutes until boarding. The countdown had acquired new significance. The briefcase opened with a leather whisper that somehow commanded absolute silence from Gate 47's chaos. Even the ambient terminal noise, rolling luggage, boarding announcements, coffee shop chatter, seemed to fade as Zara's hand moved inside the case with surgical precision, her movements deliberate as a surgeon selecting life-saving instruments. She withdrew a black leather credential wallet first, setting it on the counter with the weight of federal authority. The embossed eagle emblem caught the harsh fluorescent lighting, gleaming like a badge of divine justice waiting to be revealed. Harrison squinted at it, his managerial confidence beginning to waver like a candle in wind. Collins leaned forward despite herself, drawn by the same morbid curiosity that makes people stare at car accidents. Wright took an unconscious step closer, his security training overriding his growing discomfort. The moment stretched like taffy, thick with anticipation. Zara flipped the wallet open with theatrical slowness, each millimeter of movement calculated for maximum psychological impact. The Federal Aviation Administration inspector's badge sat behind crystal-clear plastic like a judge's gavel awaiting final sentence. The golden eagle spread its wings across deep blue enamel, surrounded by official seals and authentication markers that spoke of genuine federal authority. Serial numbers etched in precise government formatting. Security features invisible to casual observers, but unmistakable to trained eyes. "Inspector Zara Washington," she announced quietly, her voice carrying the absolute certainty of federal law enforcement. "FAA Aviation Safety Inspector, certificate number ASI 4472, 26 years of federal service." The identification card beside the badge displayed her photograph, the same calm, professional face now staring at them across the counter, along with her federal employee number, security clearance level, and authorization codes, official government photography, holographic security features, undeniable, devastating, career-ending. Collins' hand, still clutching the torn passport like damning evidence, began trembling visibly. The small piece she'd ripped away fluttered to the counter like a confession falling from guilty fingers, landing with the soft whisper of destroyed careers. Harrison's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, a middle manager suddenly drowning in federal oversight he'd never imagined possible. His polyester tie felt like it was tightening around his throat with each heartbeat. Wright immediately stepped back as if the badge carried radioactive contamination, his hand flying away from his radio like he'd touched molten metal. 20 years of airport security experience hadn't prepared him for this scenario. The live stream detonated across social media like a digital nuclear bomb. Keisha's viewer count exploded from 1,500 to over 4,000 in 30 seconds, the numbers climbing so fast they became a blur. Comments flooded the screen so rapidly they transformed into an incomprehensible cascade of shock, vindication, and viral excitement. "Holy shit!" someone shouted from the gate seating area, immediately covering their mouth in embarrassment at the outburst. "Federal Inspector!" another passenger called out, actually standing to applaud like they were witnessing justice served live. "Get them!" The teenager with the TikTok recording zoomed in on the badge with shaking hands, understanding instinctively that he was documenting what would become the viral video of the decade. His followers were about to explode. "I've been conducting undercover compliance reviews for the past 18 months, Zara continued, her voice now carrying the quiet thunder of federal law enforcement authority. "This interaction has been extraordinarily illuminating from an investigative standpoint." Harrison found his voice somewhere in his throat, though it emerged as barely a whisper. You're actually a Federal Aviation Safety Inspector." "Yes." Zara's dark eyes moved between the three of them like an airport security scanner cataloging suspicious behavior and evidence. "Ms. Collins, you just willfully damaged federal identification documents in front of approximately 5,000 digital witnesses." She gestured toward Keisha's phone, where the viewer count was approaching 6,000 and climbing like a rocket. The number increased visibly as people shared the stream across every social media platform imaginable: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Collins looked at the ascending digits with growing horror, each additional viewer representing another witness to her career suicide. Her mortgage payments, her children's college funds, her health insurance, her entire future evaporated in real time before a digital audience. I didn't know. I was just following standard security protocols for suspicious documentation. Suspicious based on what specific criteria, exactly? Zara's question sliced through the air like a prosecutor's cross-examination during a death penalty case. What particular elements made this passport appear fraudulent to your professionally trained eye? The silence stretched like a medieval torture device, each second adding pressure. Everyone watching, physically and digitally, understood exactly what had triggered Collins's suspicions. The unspoken truth hung in the air like smoke. But verbalizing racial profiling in front of 6,000 witnesses would be professional suicide broadcast live in high definition. The quality of the paper seemed, Collins stammered, grasping for any explanation that wouldn't damn her completely. The quality of paper used by the United States State Department? Zara's eyebrow raised with lethal precision. Are you suggesting the federal government issues substandard documentation? Collins's face went from pale to gray. She was drowning, and every word she spoke pushed her deeper underwater. Mr. Harrison, Zara continued, pivoting to the duty manager with prosecutorial precision that would make Supreme Court justices proud, are you familiar with 49 U.S.C. Section 46301? Harrison's face had achieved a shade of white previously unknown to medical science. Sweat beaded along his receding hairline despite the terminal's aggressive air conditioning. No, ma'am, What exactly does that federal statute cover? Civil penalties for violations of federal aviation regulations, monetary fines up to $27,500 per individual incident. She paused deliberately, allowing the financial implications to penetrate his consciousness like acid through metal. That's per incident, Mr. Harrison, not per investigation, not per day, not per employee, per individual regulatory violation. Wright looked like he wanted to dissolve into the airport carpeting and disappear forever. He'd witnessed workplace discrimination before during his 2 decades in security, but never against a federal inspector. Never with this level of comprehensive documentation. Never with thousands of people creating permanent digital evidence that would live forever on the internet. The airport's customer service manager materialized at the crowd's periphery like a ghost, drawn by escalating reports from multiple gate agents about a situation developing at 47. She surveyed the scene with a growing alarm and immediately spotted the federal badge gleaming on the counter like a beacon of doom. Her 20 years of professional customer service composure evaporated instantly. But there's significantly more information to discuss, Zara said, reaching back into her briefcase with the supreme confidence of someone holding a royal flush in a poker game where lives and careers were the stakes. She withdrew a government-issued tablet, its screen displaying official FAA databases and federal reporting systems that most civilians would never see in their lifetimes. This isn't my inaugural undercover review operation. I've systematically documented similar discriminatory incidents at 6 different major airlines over the past 14 months. She swiped through screenshots with the efficiency of a federal prosecutor presenting evidence. Time-stamped reports, audio recordings, video documentation, witness statements, a comprehensive federal investigation spanning multiple states, multiple carriers, multiple victims who'd never received justice until now. American Airlines is currently under active federal review for multiple compliance violations, customer service protocol failures, Americans with Disabilities Act violations, employees conduct standard breaches, systematic discrimination patterns. Her finger traced across official documentation that could destroy corporate reputations. This incident just graduated from an internal customer complaint to Exhibit A in a federal civil rights investigation. Collins made a sound somewhere between a whimper and a death rattle. The mathematical reality was crushing her like an avalanche of consequences she'd never considered. Her job, her benefits, her pension after 8 years of service, her children's future educational opportunities. all connected to employment that was disintegrating in high definition before a global audience. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking like thin ice. "I have 2 kids in college. I desperately need this position. My husband's been unemployed for 8 months since the factory closed." You should have considered those potential consequences before making discriminatory assumptions about passenger credentials based solely on racial characteristics, Zara replied without emotion. Her voice wasn't cruel, merely factual, the tone of someone reading scientific data. "Before deliberately damaging federal documents while assuming I lacked the authority to respond appropriately." The live stream had reached 8,000 viewers and was climbing toward 10,000. Screenshots were propagating across Twitter at viral velocity, each retweet multiplying the audience exponentially. Local news stations were monitoring social media feeds, preparing breaking news segments for evening broadcasts. The digital evidence was already permanently archived in the internet's collective memory, impossible to delete or deny. National news outlets were beginning to pick up the story. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. The viral video was transcending social media and entering mainstream journalism. Harrison attempted desperately to salvage something from the wreckage of this situation. "Look, this is clearly an unfortunate misunderstanding between well-meaning employees and a valued customer. We can absolutely handle this situation internally through proper corporate channels." "Mr. Harrison." Zara's interruption was velvet soft but absolutely final, like a silk noose tightening. 8,000 people are currently watching this live stream in real time. Airport security cameras have recorded everything from multiple strategic angles. Dozens of passengers have independent video documentation stored on personal devices. She gestured to the crowd surrounding them, phones still recording continuously like a digital firing squad. The phrase, "handle internally," became obsolete approximately 15 minutes ago when this became a public federal incident. She closed the tablet and returned it to her briefcase with deliberate ceremony, then lifted her damaged passport like a prosecutor presenting murder weapon evidence. The torn document looked fundamentally different now. Not suspicious contraband to be questioned, but evidence of a federal crime committed in broad daylight before thousands of witnesses. 23 minutes until boarding, she noted, consulting her precision timepiece again. The Swiss engineering reflected the quality benefits that came with federal pension plans. "I believe we need immediate consultation with your operations manager, your legal department, and quite possibly your crisis management team." The federal authority in her voice was unmistakable now, no longer hidden behind civilian camouflage. Not the quiet passenger they'd attempted to intimidate and dismiss, but an inspector carrying the full investigative power of the United States government behind every word she spoke. Collins slumped into her chair, completely defeated, understanding her career was over. Harrison fumbled for his radio with trembling hands, struggling to call for supervisory backup that might already be too late to save anyone's job. Wright stood paralyzed, understanding he'd witnessed career-ending discrimination broadcast in ultra-high definition to a global audience. The transformation was complete and irreversible. The supposed powerless victim had revealed herself as the most dangerous person at Gate 47. But Inspector Washington wasn't finished delivering revelations. "There's additional critical information you need to understand immediately," she announced, her voice projecting to every corner of the gate area with the clarity of a federal prosecutor addressing a jury. The live stream audience pressed closer to their screens. The physical crowd held its collective breath. "I'm not exclusively investigating passenger discrimination complaints against airline personnel." The strategic pause stretched like a drumroll before an execution. "I'm simultaneously conducting comprehensive audits of your airline's compliance with federal accessibility regulations, your emergency response protocol implementations, your security procedure adherence standards." Another calculated pause that felt like eternity. "Your executive compensation structures in direct relation to systematic customer service violation patterns." The implications struck like successive tsunamis, destroying everything in their path. This transcended Collins and Harrison's individual careers completely. This represented potential systematic failures at corporate leadership levels that could reach the CEO's office. Millions in federal fines, congressional oversight hearings broadcast on C-SPAN, executive terminations reported in the Wall Street Journal. The viral video was metamorphosing into a corporate apocalypse in real time. American Airline stock would open significantly lower tomorrow morning, and investors would demand answers. The operations manager arrived at Gate 47 like a fire chief responding to a 5-alarm blaze. Sandra Martinez had 23 years of airline crisis management experience, but the scene before her was unprecedented. Federal badge on the counter, live stream approaching 10,000 viewers. Her employees looked like death row inmates awaiting execution. "Inspector Washington," she said, reading the name from the credential display. "I'm Sandra Martinez, operations manager. How can we resolve this situation professionally?" Zara's smile was razor sharp. "Ms. Martinez, your employees just violated multiple federal statutes in front of a digital audience that's now approaching 12,000 people." She opened her tablet again, displaying American Airlines financial data with the precision of a forensic accountant. "Let's discuss the mathematics of discrimination, shall we?" The numbers appeared on screen like artillery shells landing on target. American Airlines reported $52.8 billion in revenue for 2023. Your profit margin averaged 8.2%. That's approximately $4.3 billion in net income. Martinez's corporate composure began cracking. She understood exactly where this was heading. The Department of Transportation received 847 discrimination complaints against major airlines last quarter. American Airlines accounted for 23% of those complaints, the highest in the industry. Zara swiped to the next screen, revealing DOT enforcement data. Average federal fine per proven discrimination incident, $87,500. Your airline currently has 14 open investigations. Potential liability, $1.2 million in civil penalties alone. Collins made a strangled noise from her chair. Harrison was sweating through his polyester uniform shirt. "But today's incident involves additional federal violations," Zara continued with prosecutorial precision. "Destruction of federal documents, obstruction of a federal inspector, violation of due process rights under the Fifth Amendment." She pulled up legal statutes with the efficiency of a Supreme Court clerk. 18 U.S.C. Section 1341. Federal document destruction carries penalties up to $250,000 per incident. 49 U.S.C. Section 46301. Aviation regulation violations up to $27,500 per occurrence. Civil Rights Act violations under 42 U.S.C. Section 1981. Unlimited monetary damages. The live stream had exploded to 15,000 viewers. News outlets were starting to embed the stream in breaking news coverage. Airline discrimination was trending nationally on Twitter. Martinez attempted damage control. "Inspector, we can arrange immediate retraining for all personnel." "Ms. Martinez, retraining doesn't address systematic discrimination patterns documented across multiple incidents." Zara's voice cut through corporate deflection like a surgical laser. "This isn't isolated employee misconduct. This is institutional failure requiring federal oversight." She displayed a comprehensive spreadsheet that made Martinez's face go white. "I've documented identical discrimination incidents at Gate 23 in March, Gate 15 in January, and Gate 8 last November. Same pattern, same racial profiling, same assumption of passenger illegitimacy." The data was devastating. Timestamps, employee names, witness statements, video evidence from security cameras Martinez thought nobody accessed. "Your customer service training manual, Section 4.7, explicitly prohibits document examination without reasonable suspicion. Ms. Collins violated written policy." Collins began sobbing quietly, understanding her termination was inevitable. "Your employee handbook, page 47, requires supervisory consultation before passenger removal. Mr. Harrison violated established protocol." Harrison's career was disintegrating in real time before a global audience. "More significantly," Zara continued, "your corporate diversity metrics show systemic failures. African American passengers file discrimination complaints at rates 340% higher than statistical population representation. She pulled up internal American Airlines data that shouldn't have been accessible to outsiders. "How did you obtain confidential corporate information?" Martinez demanded. "Federal Inspector access privileges," Zara replied calmly. "Amazing what databases open when you have proper authorization." The revelation sent shockwaves through the growing crowd. A federal inspector with access to internal corporate data was every airline executive's nightmare scenario. "Here's your situation, Ms. Martinez. This incident is being live-streamed to 16,000 people. Video evidence is permanent and viral. Federal violations are documented and witnessed." Zara's tablet displayed a breakdown of potential consequences that read like a corporate death sentence. Option 1, immediate suspension of involved employees pending federal investigation, mandatory bias training for all customer-facing staff within 30 days, public apology and policy reform announcement, settlement payment of $125,000 to avoid federal prosecution. Martinez calculated rapidly. The settlement was expensive but manageable compared to federal court proceedings. Option 2, federal investigation proceeds with full legal disclosure, congressional subpoenas for executive testimony, Department of Justice civil rights prosecution, potential criminal charges for federal obstruction. The second option carried implications that could reach the CEO's office and destroy executive careers. Congressional hearings are broadcast on C-SPAN, Ms. Martinez. Very public, very embarrassing. Stock prices tend to suffer during federal investigations. She pulled up American Airlines' current stock price, $18.47 per share. Delta Airlines lost 12% of stock value during their 2019 discrimination investigation. Southwest dropped 8%. United Airlines fell 15% after their passenger removal incident. The financial mathematics were terrifying. American Airlines had 1.2 billion shares outstanding. A 10% stock decline would eliminate $2.2 billion in market capitalization overnight. 18 minutes until boarding, Zara noted, checking her watch. "I need a decision, Ms. Martinez. Federal or corporate resolution." The live stream audience was watching corporate America negotiate with federal authority in real time. Comments flooded social media demanding justice. News outlets were preparing lead stories about airline discrimination. Martinez pulled out her phone, speed dialing the corporate legal department. The conversation was brief and desperate. "Inspector Washington," she said after hanging up, "we accept option 1, full compliance with your requirements." "Excellent decision," Zara replied. "Let's document this agreement properly." She opened a federal reporting application on her tablet, creating an official settlement record that would become part of permanent government files. "Ms. Collins, you are suspended without pay pending completion of this investigation. Mr. Harrison, you are demoted to customer service representative with mandatory sensitivity training." Both employees nodded miserably, understanding they were fortunate to avoid federal prosecution. "A public apology will be issued within 2 hours. Settlement payment processed within 72 hours, policy changes implemented within 30 days. Martinez signed the digital agreement with trembling fingers, understanding she was saving her company from potential federal destruction. "One final requirement," Zara added. "Monthly discrimination audits conducted by independent federal contractors. Results publicly reported. The ongoing oversight would prevent future incidents while maintaining federal monitoring of corporate behavior." Collins was escorted away by airport security, her career ending where it had flourished for 8 years. Harrison remained at the gate, stripped of authority, but allowed to continue employment under probation. The live stream had reached 22,000 viewers. The video was being shared across every social media platform, creating permanent documentation of corporate accountability. American Airlines would announce new diversity initiatives within days, trying to control narrative damage before stock markets opened Monday morning. Justice had been served through legal authority rather than violence or chaos. The transformation of Gate 47 was immediate and absolute. Within 30 minutes of Zara's federal revelation, American Airlines corporate machinery shifted into crisis management overdrive with the efficiency of a military operation responding to enemy attack. Collins was escorted from the premises by airport security, her 8-year career ending in a perp walk witnessed by 25,000 live stream viewers. Her company ID badge, access cards, and uniform shirt were confiscated before she reached the employee exit. The woman who had torn a federal inspector's passport was now banned from every American Airlines facility nationwide. Harrison remained at the gate, but his supervisor badge had been removed. His authority to make passenger decisions was revoked, pending completion of mandatory bias training that would span 6 weeks. The man who had suggested Zara take a different flight was now taking orders from junior staff members. The damaged passport was replaced within 2 hours through emergency State Department protocols that Zara's federal status expedited. A new document arrived via diplomatic courier, pristine and unmarked by discriminatory hands. Martinez worked frantically on her laptop, coordinating corporate response from the gate area itself. The optics mattered, resolving the crisis publicly where it had exploded rather than hiding behind closed boardroom doors. "Inspector Washington," Martinez said, looking up from her screen, "Corporate Communications has prepared the public apology statement. Would you review it before publication?" Zara read the document with the analytical precision of a federal prosecutor examining plea agreements. The language was appropriately contrite without admitting criminal liability. "Add specific mention of policy changes," she instructed. "Passengers need concrete actions, not corporate platitudes." The revised apology was posted to American Airlines' social media accounts within 90 minutes of the incident. It acknowledged inappropriate employee conduct, announced immediate termination and suspension, and detailed comprehensive policy reforms already being implemented. The settlement payment of $125,000 was processed through federal electronic transfer systems with the speed that only government authority could command. Half would fund civil rights organizations. Half would establish passenger advocacy programs. But the most significant changes were systematic rather than financial. American Airlines' Dignity First customer service protocol launched within 72 hours. Every gate agent would receive 16 hours of bias recognition training instead of the previous 2-hour diversity seminar. Role-playing scenarios would include federal inspector encounters, disability accommodations, and racial profiling prevention. A passenger advocacy app was developed and deployed within 2 weeks. Travelers could report discrimination incidents directly to federal oversight agencies through encrypted submissions that bypassed internal corporate filtering. Monthly discrimination audits became mandatory across all American Airlines facilities. Independent federal contractors would review customer complaints, employee conduct records, and security camera footage to identify pattern discrimination before it reached viral video status. The Inspector Body Camera program launched at 12 major airports within 30 days. Gate agents, security personnel, and customer service managers were required to wear recording devices during passenger interactions. The footage would be reviewed by federal oversight teams and made available for discrimination investigations. Customer complaint response times were reduced from the industry standard of 7 business days to 24 hours. Every complaint would receive individual investigation with documented resolution provided to both the passenger and federal monitoring agencies. Executive compensation was restructured to include discrimination metrics. Customer service violations would directly impact corporate leadership bonuses. Systematic bias patterns would trigger executive performance reviews that could result in termination. The $100,000 donation to civil rights organizations was announced with great corporate fanfare, but the ongoing monthly audit costs would exceed that amount every quarter. Real change was expensive, which made it effective. Congressional representatives began drafting the Airline Passenger Dignity Act within a week of the viral video. The legislation would require federal discrimination reporting across all transportation industries. Zara's incident had become the catalyst for nationwide policy reform. Other airlines preemptively updated their policies rather than risk similar viral exposure. Delta, United, Southwest, and JetBlue all announced enhanced diversity training programs before federal pressure forced compliance. The ripple effects extended beyond aviation. Hotel chains, rental car companies, and cruise lines began reviewing their customer service protocols. No corporation wanted to become the next viral discrimination case study. Zara's methodical approach had demonstrated the power of preparation over confrontation. She hadn't raised her voice, made threats, or demanded special treatment. She had simply revealed her authority at the precise moment when it would have maximum impact. The live stream video exceeded 2 million views within a week. Had Dignity First became a rallying cry for passenger rights advocates. At Quiet Power inspired countless social media posts about strategic patience overcoming loud ignorance. Martinez was transferred to corporate headquarters to oversee the new discrimination prevention program. Her crisis management skills had saved American Airlines from federal prosecution, earning her a promotion despite presiding over the initial incident. The Gate 47 area was redesigned with improved lighting and passenger comfort features. A memorial plaque, discreetly placed but permanently installed, acknowledged the incident and American Airlines' commitment to dignity for all travelers. Collins enrolled in community college diversity studies courses, trying to rebuild her understanding of unconscious bias. Her termination became a teaching moment rather than simple punishment. Harrison advocated for policy changes at industry conferences, transforming his demotion into expertise about discrimination prevention. His lived experience of witnessing federal authority made him a credible voice for reform. The quiet revolution had succeeded through legal authority rather than social media outrage. Systematic change replaced individual revenge. Corporate accountability emerged from federal oversight rather than viral shaming. American Airlines' stock price initially dropped 3.2% on news of the incident, but recovered within a month as investors recognized the company's proactive response. The systematic reforms actually improved customer satisfaction ratings and reduced legal liability exposure. Most importantly, other passengers began traveling with increased confidence that discrimination would face immediate consequences. The video had created a precedent that corporate employees could no longer ignore federal authority disguised as ordinary passengers. 6 months later, Inspector Zara Washington stood before a packed congressional hearing room, her federal badge gleaming under C-SPAN cameras. The House Subcommittee on Aviation had called her to testify about systematic discrimination in commercial aviation. The incident at Gate 47 wasn't isolated, she told the assembled representatives. It was symptomatic of institutional failures across the transportation industry. Her methodical approach had become a template for civil rights advocacy nationwide. Document everything. Stay calm under pressure. Reveal authority strategically. Use legal knowledge as a weapon against ignorance. The video from that morning had fundamentally changed how discrimination incidents were handled. Passengers now understood that quiet dignity could be more powerful than explosive anger. Strategic thinking defeated loud prejudice every time. Keisha Martinez's live stream had launched her career as a civil rights journalist. Her Facebook following grew to 500,000 people who wanted real-time accountability for corporate discrimination. She'd covered 12 similar incidents across different industries, always armed with legal knowledge Zara had taught her. The teenager's TikTok video reached 15 million views, inspiring a generation of young activists to understand their legal rights. Comment sections became classrooms where people shared discrimination experiences and learned about federal protections. American Airlines became an unlikely success story. Their systematic reforms reduced discrimination complaints by 78% within the first year. Customer satisfaction ratings improved dramatically. Employee morale increased as workers felt proud of their company's commitment to dignity. Collins completed her community college program and became a diversity training consultant. Her lived experience of perpetrating discrimination made her uniquely qualified to help others recognize unconscious bias. She'd transformed her lowest moment into purposeful advocacy. Harrison was promoted to regional customer service manager after excelling in his bias prevention role. He spoke at industry conferences about the importance of treating every passenger with dignity, regardless of appearance or assumptions. But the most significant change was cultural rather than corporate. The phrase, "you never know who you're talking to," became more than a warning. It became wisdom. Federal inspectors, journalists, lawyers, and advocates traveled constantly, observing how they were treated by service industry workers. Zara's quiet power had demonstrated that authority didn't require volume. Competence spoke louder than confrontation. Legal knowledge was more effective than social media outrage. The story resonated across communities that had experienced similar discrimination. Black professionals shared their own encounters with assumption and prejudice. The video became required viewing in sensitivity training programs nationwide. Corporate America learned that viral videos could destroy decades of reputation building within hours. The cost of bias training seemed insignificant compared to federal investigations and congressional hearings. Most importantly, the incident proved that systematic change was possible when individual courage met institutional accountability. One person's refusal to accept discrimination had reformed an entire industry. These are the real-life stories that shape our world. Touching stories of ordinary people who refuse to accept injustice. Black stories that demonstrate the power of preparation, patience, and strategic thinking. Life stories like Zara's remind us that dignity should never be negotiable. That quiet strength can move mountains of prejudice. That federal law exists to protect citizens from discrimination, but only when people have the courage to invoke it. The live stream from Gate 47 continues to educate new viewers every day. Teachers use it in classrooms. Lawyers reference it in discrimination cases. Corporate trainers show it to emphasize the cost of bias. Change happened because one person refused to be diminished by other people's assumptions. Because she came prepared with knowledge, authority, and the patience to use both strategically. If you've experienced discrimination in airports, hotels, restaurants, or any service industry, remember Zara's example. Document everything. Know your legal rights. Stay calm under pressure. Reveal your strength when it will have maximum impact. Your voice matters in fighting systematic injustice. Your story could be the catalyst for industry-wide reform. Your dignity is worth defending through legal knowledge rather than emotional reaction. Share your discrimination experiences in the comments below. Tell us how you've handled bias in travel, employment, or customer service. Your stories educate others about recognizing and responding to prejudice. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more stories of quiet power overcoming loud ignorance. Ring the notification bell because these stories need to be heard by everyone who believes dignity should be universal. Share this video if you believe preparation is more powerful than confrontation. If you understand that legal knowledge is the best weapon against discrimination. If you know that real change requires strategic thinking rather than viral anger. Together, we're rewriting the rules about how discrimination gets challenged and defeated. One story at a time, one federal inspector at a time, one quiet victory at a time. The next time someone assumes you don't belong somewhere, remember Inspector Washington. Stay calm, document everything, and reveal your power when it will create the most positive change.